Good afternoon, everybody. How are we doing? Good. Okay, that's better than I hear at 9 o'clock in the morning. I think you should hopefully appreciate that we've gotten you the really nice theater for today, the cushy seats. This is what's new with Survey123. My name is James Chedrick. I work on the Survey123 team.
Hi, guys. Oh, hello. My name is Jason Ward. I'm a software developer working on the Survey123 and App Studio teams.
And today we're going to be doing a review basically from last year this time to today with what we've introduced in Survey123. Just as a quick reminder, with Survey123 our goal is to make it as easy as 1, 2, 3 to ask questions, get answers, and make decisions. So, what have we done? Between this time last year and today, we have released 7 versions of Survey123. We were working on 2.0 as a beta product at this time, and we did some demonstrations based on that. We also have our 8th version basically ready to ship. It's going through final testing, final certification. We'll have it by the end of the month. We've been releasing essentially about every 6 to 8 weeks. To provide a highlight of it, we're going to do a series of demos that highlight some of the new functionality that you see here. To start off, Jason's going to show some of the improvements we've made with web publishing.
Thanks, James. Can you guys see my... Oh, great. So one of the great new features that we've introduced with the website is the ability to modify a survey schema before it's published. So I'm going to take a look at a survey that is in draft mode. And this is a developer survey, and this is the type of survey you might use at an event such as the Developer Summit, where you want to get an idea of your attendees' programming experience and just have a little fun and get some information from your attendees. So it's a simple survey. I'm just asking what the person's name is, their years of programming experience, if they had a hacker name, what would it be, and what language do they use the most. So when I'm happy that with my survey and I'm ready to publish, we can go to Publish. And as you can see, now I have the option to modify my schema. So you can see on the panel to the left, we have a more structured view of our survey schema. Under the name column, we can now modify the name of our fields and also the values that can get submitted with each survey. This will ultimately provide a more semantic and easy to read view of our data. So here, rather than field 0 for the question, what is your name, I can put name. For how many years of programming experience, I can put years experience. And for my choices, I can actually, rather than 0, I can put none. 0.1 to 5, I can put less than 5. 5 to 10, and greater than 10. And we can go on down the row. Here we can add hacker name and language. And for our language choices, we can do the same thing that we did with our years of experience. So when I'm happy with this, I can then go ahead and publish it. Now another new feature that we've introduced is, we'll let this go through the publishing process. Say you've published a survey, it's been out, some records have been, surveys have been taken, there's records in it. Well, now you have the ability to modify an existing survey as well. So here's my published survey. It's similar to this one right here, the developer survey. And we've already got 3 records. So there's existing data in the survey. I can now open this up and go to my design view. And say I need to add a record or a language to my what language you use most. So I'm going to add, we left iOS people out, so we're going to say Objective-C. And Swift. My eyes are going bad. And I'm going to take out TypeScript. Now you can see it's going to ask me if, when I delete this, I'm going to have the option to save existing data even by deleting this choice when I get to the publish stage. So I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to add another question. Just make it a single choice. And I'm going to ask a question that will probably cause a lot of contention in the coding world. I'm going to say, should curly braces be on their own line? Now, if you're a developer, you might, hopefully you know what I'm talking about here. And I'm going to, this is just going to be two choices. I'm going to say no way, or yes totally, or yes of course. That's better. So now when I go to publish, you can see it's going to ask me if I want to save the data that's already existing in the survey for the choice that I removed. If I check this, it will actually remove the data, but I'm going to leave that in because I want to keep that data in there. And you can see it can still go to modify schema. Existing fields I can't modify, but the new stuff I've added, I can go in and edit just the same. Objective C. And going through the same process that we did the other time. And when I'm happy with that, I can then publish this and so on and so forth as we go along.
The next feature that we want to show is one that we spent a great deal of time bringing into Survey123 over this past year. And that's working with existing feature services and being able to edit the data within them. So I've got Survey123 Connect open and I'm in the new survey dialog. Normally we create a new survey from a template or possibly a community sample. You may also duplicate a survey by accessing your existing surveys or your organization surveys. In this case, I'm actually asking it to use the feature services of my organization. These feature services have been published either via ArcGIS desktop, uploaded a file geodatabase, what have you, right? They're already there, they're already your data. This works with the hosted services in ArcGIS Online as my online organization is in this case, but it also works with federated services from your portal. So you can have your services that tie directly into your into your enterprise geodatabase, edited and added to with Survey123. So I'm going to select this feature service of water quality stations and their inspection logs and create that survey. We're scanning the feature service endpoint and determining the appropriate question types. So as you see, I begin here with the geometry. We have a text question for the water body name, and that's because when we looked at this feature service, we found that it was a string field. So we're copying over those field properties directly into the survey. This survey has two components to it. The first is information on the water station. The second is information on the inspection log we're doing that day, the sample's history. To begin to, all we need to do at this point is start making the survey a little bit nicer in terms of its formatting. For example, placing in a begin group and an end group to group these questions together. And whoops. And then changing some of these questions. This select one water type. If we look at that in the form, we see it's got a choice of about 8 questions and takes up a fair amount of room. So I'm going to make that a drop down by just changing its appearance to minimal. And then looking through, we also have a couple of yes, no, or if, either or questions. To make them look a little bit nicer, I'm going to use a Likert Appearance. This is a horizontal oriented appearance that looks a little bit like a toggle switch, so it makes it easy to fill in. Working on Windows all day. Use the Control key. So here, we're starting to make this form look a bit better. Additionally, when we're going on the field, we may not need to edit every piece of information. The water body's name, the type, and the county probably are not going to change in terms of the inspection log. And we don't want to let our field crew change it accidentally. In that case, we can make that, oops, wrong way, read only. So now I've got my form. I've set it up for use and for actually editing the data that matters to us. Perhaps the access point has changed, or perhaps water service advisory is in effect. We want these to be editable. but we don't want other information to be. We have the sample history ready to go. Now we need to set up editing. We do that via the settings dialog, and we've added in a couple of new areas. One that we sent in is the inbox. The inbox is the incoming data to update. We can enable the inbox so that this survey will actually use new data when we edit. We can also optionally put in a query. A query filters our data to just those records that are relevant to the person filling it out in the field. In this case, I'm just going to filter it by county to Montgomery County. And just as a reference point, this data set, as you see, is in Maryland. Montgomery County is this region here in the center of the screen. So I've created my form. I've set it in my settings, and now I'm ready to publish it. So I'll publish the survey, and you see that we're not creating a new feature service. We're using the existing one. It's complete. And I can now begin to use that within Survey123. So download the survey. You can see we have our new survey. And it has this new inbox function. We click on the inbox and refresh, and we have the new features. One thing I forgot to do is actually give it a label by using the instance name. We see them here. You can click on one for editing.
Cool.
And we've got the lake access type. It's currently under advisory. Just double checking from here. There it is, under the advisory. Let's say that advisory is cleaned up. So we'll go with no. Clear out the dates, and begin a new sample history. We can submit the data. And of course, we're updating the existing feature. It's removed from the inbox. And if we refresh, we see that it's changed in the database, and that's reflected in our other products. Editing also, as you saw, supports adding new information within repeats. We can optionally configure that to also allow you to download the existing repeat records. We can do that over here, over in the parameters column. Here, at the repeat, if we wanted to enable updating existing repeated information or related tables, we would have allow updates equal to true. And then we would specify a query to limit the repeats that are used. In this case, we want all of them, so 1 = 1 is a give me everything query. Then we would save, republish the form, and be able to edit the existing log, the history log. So next, Jonathan's going to show a new feature.
Jason.
Last year was Jonathan. This year
It's all good.
Jason is going to show a few improvements we've made to the working with the field app on the phone.
Yep. Do you have the...
Yep.
So I'm going to plug in my iPhone here. And yeah, we're going to talk about some cool new features in the field app. So can you guys see my iPhone yet? Good. So a couple of new things that we've added. One thing that's going to be very helpful to people. First off, I'm going to just pretend like I'm a transmission tower inspector. And I'm going to open up my transmission tower inspection survey. And I'm going to start collecting data. I'm going to open up my map. I'm happy with my location. And then imagine that your battery is almost dead. So we're going to pretend that your phone crashes and Survey123 is completely closed. Once we get recharged, we're going to open it back up. And well, of course it didn't work at that one time that I needed it to. But such is the situation when you're doing presentations. So I'm going to put some text in here. Done. And I'm in the middle of my survey. We're going to close it out. Open back up. And you can see, in this instance, my survey, I think this might have something to do with it being an iPhone and not really going into kill mode there. But you can see it's recovered my survey, which is very cool, so my data isn't lost. And so I can continue the survey, or I can discard it at this time if it's not relevant anymore. So I'm going to say continue survey. I've got my phone charged, I'm out in the field, I'm happy with my location. Now we're going to talk about another thing that we've added, which is pretty cool. The ability to add existing or new photos. This is stuff we worked on, introduced last year, and we've enhanced since then, is the ability to add existing photos or new photos to attachment questions, and we have the ability to annotate them as we need to. So say I'm in the field, and I've seen a tower, and there's corrosion on it, and I need to document it. Now bear with me, we don't actually have a tower here, so I'm just going to take a photo of the desk. So I'm here, and I can say this is where the corrosion is, and I need to pinpoint it. I'm going to take my image, and now we have this feature where we can annotate on it. Some things we've added too, just to start, is that before we start annotating, we now have the ability to rotate the image too, in situations where it may come in the wrong orientation. If you have an existing image and it comes in at the wrong orientation, you have the ability to rotate it now. We actually have this thing enabled from the get-go. You can turn it on or off, but it's something called Smart Draw. And what Smart Draw does is it tries to figure out if you're drawing a square, a circle, or an arrow while you're going. So say I need to circle this area. It knows I was trying to draw a circle. It figured it out. And I can say this is where the corrosion is. That's it, done. But say I also need to draw an arrow too. Like I really want to pinpoint that arrow, that area. Just say very corroded. Not cutted. And hit done. And you can see it actually orientates along the arrow. But beyond that too, I can actually, if I need to do some freeform drawing, I can turn the Smart Drawing off. I'm going to turn line on. And I don't need to do is label, so I can turn the label off. And I really want to highlight something in red. I have the ability to freeform draw too. And so when we're happy with that, we can actually then save it and keep going on with our survey. So we also still have the ability to have a template in a question. So here we have a template based on the choice I picked earlier. It'll have a different template in here for a different type of tower. And I can use this to really pinpoint too on the tower where I have the corrosion, which would be right here and right here. And I don't have label turned on, so if I had the labeling turned on, then it would automatically give me a label option as well. So I can hit, I'm happy with that. And I can sign it and submit it and send now. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to James. If we can plug that.
Thanks. Thanks. The next thing we're going to show are a couple of new features we've added in authoring forms. These help us make our forms more complex and actually work and allow you to be innovative. The first is nothing. With one of the new features we've introduced is the ability to say that this question is null. This does not submit a question to the database. One of the limitations, as we know, with a feature class is that it can have only one geometry field. That normally means that with a survey, we can only have one map, right? A map question here submits geometry. So how does this form have two maps? It has it, again, by having a null geometry, or null question on the geometry. So you can see that we've set the field type to null. That means do not send the results of this question to the database. Instead, we've added two additional questions to provide the place to store the results, in this case the X and Y. And we're using the pull data function to extract from that geopoint question the X and Y coordinates. So now if we go back here, take a look at the schema, we have the geometry, we have the question that's skipped, and the results. Null is also useful in creating temporary variables within a form. As an example, a customer actually asked about how to do linear regression. Linear regression, as I reread my high school statistics book, involves a lot of complicated answers, or complicated steps, including working with the average x and y and the difference from each point to that average value. If we look at this form, you can see that we have hidden several calculate fields. So difference from the mean for x, difference from the mean for y. The difference, the difference is multiplied by each other. The difference of the x variable squared. These all go into calculating. The final result of ax plus b, slope and intercept. So we've seen a lot of users use null questions to do a variety of things in making it easier from the form's perspective of asking the question for a person, but accommodating the database's perspective of how it wants that data stored. So you can essentially ask a question and have it null, and then have that value go into another question to actually make the database happy. Another function that we've done, or another function set that we've implemented to make it easier to do, to make it easier to work within your forms, is aggregation functions. These are functions that very classically work to total in information within a repeat. So I have this order form. I'm ordering two 12-inch red LEDs. Add in an order for green ones. And you can see that my number of items gets updated to reflect the 2 plus 3, as well as the total order cost. These functions are fairly simple. They just work with a field that's within a repeat. And you'll see here that in this case we're using sum. We also have count, so that you can count the number of times the question's been answered across repeats. From that we can get average, sum over count. And we also have the min and max. The one thing that needs to be known, especially when there are hidden questions like this, is that we need to declare what type of data it's storing. So if we take a look, I've given this a bind type of decimal, so we know that these are numeric questions. When you have sum with decimals, obviously it adds as you would think. Otherwise, it would treat it as a text string and end up concatenating as opposed to actually adding. The next feature we want to highlight is one that we actually have just introduced into Survey123, and that's an integration with an external device. This is Spike. ArcGIS is the manufacturer of Spike. This is a laser rangefinder that just clips onto your phone. Power it up. And we have a survey right here that actually works with Spike. It has an image question, but instead of the normal image question, we've given it the appearance of Spike. We've given it a form appearance of Spike. That triggers it to show the Spike logo. And when I click on it, it connects. I can see I gave my device and the measure to it. Take the photo. We've got a little bit of photo inception going on. Photo of yourself taking the photo. And then you can see that we've got the distance that Spike measured. It stored that within this photo. And then when it comes back to us, we read that information from the photo, as well as an estimate of the latitude and longitude. Be aware that that estimate can vary, especially considering that we're relying on the accuracy of the GPS in the phone to begin with. Further, we can actually use this for measurement. So here we have a measurement. I'll try to get that window there. So I've got the photo. It now will want me to align the photo. So choose the largest rectangle. And if people remember tick marks, I remember tick marks, anyone? Few laughs. Just like tick marks, register it on corners to set up the transformation plane. And next we can now measure an area. So, did not mean to do that. There it goes. Sorry, just a little hard to touch. Yeah, there are two right next to each other, so. There we go. So we get the area. As you can see, it's in about 13 square feet. I'll save that. The photo comes back. If we looked really closely, we'd be able to see and we get the area as well as the number of edges present and each edge length. Submit that, and now I've got the image with the measurements along with the data ready for analysis. The final thing that we want to show in terms of new features we've already released, Jason's going to highlight a new feature within the website.
Am I switched over? Yep. Thanks, James. So one thing that we want to highlight in the website is we've made new enhancements and further enhancements to our report creation and generation. So basically now we have Word templates that we can use to create pre-formatted forms, reports that we can download. And with the newest enhancement, we've been able to add, you can reference a web map via an ID to use in the report as your point of reference for your point of interest. And we've introduced simpler grammar to use in the forms for rendering images and maps, and introducing better formatting options for multi-line text questions and multi-choice questions. So let's take a look. Here is a manhole inspection survey I have. So I'm in the office. I've had surveyors going out and inspecting manholes. I can see I've got some data in here. And I go to the side over here. I can see this is a very simple web-based report of all my data. Now we can go up here to report. And we have multiple templates in here that we can use to display this data in Microsoft Word documents. So first off, I'm going to download the enhanced template just so you can see what the Word format looks like before we actually create a report off of it. So we'll download this really quick. And we're going to open it up. Hopefully. There we go. So as you can see, here is our Word form. Here's our Word document. And really, since this is a Word document, the options for formatting are pretty wide open. I mean, you can have very sophisticated forms created with sophisticated graphics. And really, all you're doing is binding your data with these variables. And as you can see right here, this is where we're using just a web map ID. And you'll see when we actually download the actual report, when we generate it, you're going to see the custom web map in there that's used to focus on your point of interest. We can do photos, and we can set the size of the photos that we want to. So now actually let's go back and generate this report. So I have this point of interest. I want to generate this report. I'm going to email it to someone or submit it to a document repository. So I'm going to say I want to use my enhanced template, and I'm going to hit generate. That's coming along. Only during presentations would it take an extra minute. Okay, this may be because I've had this web browser open for a long time today, been doing a bunch of preparing for this. So what I'm going to do is actually reload this. And we'll go through this one more time. So here's my report. I want to actually take this record and create a report from it. So I'm going to use my enhanced template, and I'm going to hit generate. technical difficulties today. I actually do have a downloaded copy already. No, I actually deleted my trash. Sorry, guys. I had done this multiple times, and I had multiple copies in my recycle bin. Yeah, I apologize. There's sometimes glitches in the system.
So we also have a demo theater on this at 6 o'clock if you want to get a little bit more detail and hopefully see it work.
Yeah, but the beauty of this is like you'll get a Word document with all of your data in it and the custom web map that you've ID'd, and it's a really nice document. And then you can actually convert it to a PDF, email it off how you need to, or print it out, do whatever you need to with it. Oh. Well, I thought I had something. So with that, I'll go back to James. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. As the slide says, this is a beta functionality.
Exactly.
So we still have a few quirks in it. We're working to finalize that soon. So that was, these were some features that we've brought into Survey123, both the website and field app, over the past years. So next question. As I mentioned, we're having our next version, 2.7, get released around the end of the month. What are we bringing into it? So to provide a couple of features, or show a couple of features, we're going to go back and do a little bit more demos. Within the field app, we're bringing in some things that will help with navigation, both within the form as well as in general. So hopefully it's on. Sorry, thanks. Really should have like a little mirror right there. So here I have a very long farm reporting survey that the USDA publishes. As you can see, it has something on the order of 400 questions. We've organized these questions into pages, so we can navigate from page to page. Select the page I want to go to, and then finally, when I'm at the very end, I've got the option to submit. So we can just navigate, again, through this form, page by page. This makes it a lot easier to navigate for your users. They aren't confronted by the entire scrolling list that they have to go on and on and on for. So page support. The next navigation improvement is within repeats. So I'm just going to bring up, again, this water station inspection survey. As you probably saw, the actual inspection information is quite lengthy. And while in this case we may only want to submit one inspection per visit, when I'm done and I need to, in a situation where I need to add another one, we need to be able to go quickly back up and begin again. So our navigation, so repeat navigation, will now scroll automatically up to the top of the repeat to let you begin quickly again. The final navigation enhancement I want to show is one that's also going to be released in beta. And that's Geosearch. By default, it'll be hidden on the map. You press and hold in the top bar area to reveal it. And then you type in the address you're looking for. You saw briefly there as I was typing in a USNG coordinate, so this also supports USNG, MGRS. Not any. It's doing a GeoSearch as we're looking through. Select my result. And we should zoom to it. This obviously works best in a local area. Yeah, the current location is actually sort of overriding that right now. So again, we're releasing in beta, but we're bringing in GeoSearch. Another thing we can do is press and hold on the map. And if you'll take a look at the very bottom of the screen right here, whoops, you were actually doing a reverse geocode against the map. So we're bringing in the address or other information from the World Geocoding Service. And switch over to the website improvements.
So before we go to the website improvements, I actually did get the report to download just now. So, you know, there's just a little glitch in the system. But here we have the generated report. And you can see this was the custom web map, and we've used that. It might not be the best example of the web map you'd have underneath, but you can see it was a custom web map that we had published. And just with the ID, we're able to use that as the backdrop to our point of interest. And all our other data is in here, our photo. And from this, I mean, we can do what we need to with it. We can convert it to a PDF. We can just email the Word document, print it out. So I wanted to share that with you before we go to what's new coming in the Survey123 website. So I've opened up my developer survey again. And what we just want to highlight is that we have two new question types. One is a file upload. So with here, this supports PDFs, Word documents, DocX, XLS, PowerPoints, and text files. And another cool thing we have is a signature question. So now let's just preview this. And we go down, and you can see I have a signature question here that I can use to sign. And there's my beautiful signature. And so, yeah, so we can have signature questions now on the website. Those are the two features that we really wanted to highlight coming on the Survey123 website. So with that, I'll turn it back to James.
So after that, as we said, you know, we're releasing 2.7 around the end of the month. After that, we're going to be concentrating on our release towards users conference. There are a few main theme areas we're looking at. The first is direct connection into high accuracy GNSS receivers. This is actually being added to App Studio at 3.0. And then once App Studio has it, we're able to incorporate it into Survey123. Working on improving the mapping experience within Survey123, particularly support for mobile map packages. Survey123, as you probably know, currently supports tile packages, which allow you to go offline with your map. There are some disadvantages, notably in terms of the size of a tile package for the area displayed. Mobile map packages provide a much more efficient area for the, efficient file size for the area covered. We're planning to improve the batch report generation. Aside from fixing bugs, we're also going to be bringing in batch reports. So instead of selecting one record, you can select a set of records and get a document generated based on them. And finally, we're looking at different ways to integrate within enterprise systems. One way that you've seen a little bit mentioned on through the Developer Summit is through a webhook. A webhook is a after submission action that is then triggered to begin a workflow process. I want to share that in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to come over here to this website. This is Microsoft Flow. Flow is a webhook provider. So we can configure it. And you'll see that in this case, when a request is received, i.e. when a survey is submitted, two actions happen. The first is that an email gets sent. In this case, I've hooked up my personal Gmail account for sending the email. This works with other email systems as well. And also note that we're using data filled in from the survey inside the form as variables. So it's a template email, but the survey information influences the actual content. Second is a check. We're checking to see if, in this case, report notes question has the word flag, as in flag for follow-up. In that case, we'll fire off a mobile notification, in this case from the Microsoft Flow app. So let's switch over to my phone and back into my survey. So I have a survey that has been configured to use that webhook that I just showed you. Collect one. Overwatering with that big bottle, Jason. So I put in flag, that keyword that I'm expecting. Just take a quick photo. And submit this. So I've submitted this. It's now also firing off that webhook. And my phone should vibrate very shortly. And go to the Flow app. So it should have provided a notification. I found that actually I was signed out a little bit earlier. If I take a quick look at my email. Whoa. Yep, there it is. Right at the top of my email. So we're able to then basically have something happen, whether it's an email notification or firing off a processing script to begin to work with that data in a further QA process. That's what webhooks are essentially. We're still developing it, so it's not coming for this next release, but it will be coming soon. So just as a reminder, and as you might have guessed from our release cycle this last year, we do a release of Survey123 about every 6 to 8 weeks. If you have a question about a function that we may not have, please ask us about it. Either post on GeoNet or contact the Survey123 team or ask your account manager to contact us. As I mentioned, we released 2.6 in January. We actually did a fix just to finalize the spike integration just last week. We'll be releasing 2.7 around the end of the month. We plan for 2.8, which will be a very targeted release of some hotfixes as we concentrate on some of those larger functionality. And then hope to have 3.0 a bit before the users conference. This is a very aggressive release cycle, and it's sometimes hard to keep up. One way that you can keep up and also test things out as we're developing it is by working within the early adopter community. Within Survey123, we think we have the notion of a continuous beta program. So you can sign into the early adopter community. As the app is under development, we post about once every week or two into test flight, into the early adopter community and test flight for iOS. You're able to check out the new features, check out the early drafts of our documentation, and let us know if anything's breaking. If you haven't yet, please get started at survey123.arcgis.com. It's the web, it's aside from being the homepage of the website, the help button is also your portal to all of our support resources. That includes the formal help documentation, the blogs and forums on GeoNet. We blog about every 2 weeks or so. With what's new, as well as diving deeper in specific features. Ishmael, for example, blogged just on Monday about using webhooks with another webhook provider, Integromat. We also feature about 24 tutorial videos on YouTube to help you get started creating XLS forms. Finally, to segue into our next session, Survey123 is available as an open source template. You're able to use App Studio, download the Survey123 source code, make modifications. In Red Cross's case, they wanted it not to be green, they wanted it to be red. And then publish that as its own app. And they also wanted it to work directly with their Red Cross portal, not ArcGIS Online. So that's it's available for you to do that. And Jason, in the next session, extending you Survey123, as well as Erwin, another App Studio developer, will show how you can get started. As I mentioned, we have the extending Survey123 session next in the same theater. We also have 2 demo theaters this evening. The first is tips and tricks at 5:30, and the second is using the print templates at 6. Both of those are going to be over in Demo Theater 3 in the expo area. With that, I hope you've enjoyed seeing what we've done over the past year, and I'm very happy to take your questions. Yeah?
For photo questions, can you limit someone to just taking a new photo instead of going to the library?
So the question is, with image questions, can we require only that a new photo is taken? Not directly. However, I could see a mechanism to use a constraint to check the name of the photo. Survey123, when we have a photo, we take a photo, we give it a very specific name that's based on the question name as well as a ID. Most photos from the photo gallery would not follow that pattern at all, and so that would be invalid. Yes?
For the map part, do you have a way to do cluster point? Like, for example, I have any account with one address, can I see like from that one address?
So the issue is in the inbox, or is it in the inbox that you were speaking of, or
The map.
in the map in general? So the question is, in the map, if I have multiple points that are stacked on top of each other, how do I discern from one from the other? Right now, we don't really have a good mechanism to do that, but that would be one of the aspects that we probably will be looking at as we enhance the map control.
Okay. So for the inbox, for the label, can I have multiple fields show as
So for the question is, with the inbox, can I display multiple fields? The answer is yes. That's part of configuring what's called the instance name. That's a setting in the XLS form that essentially lets you define the short label for that submission.
and it's sortable?
It's sortable A to Z, and yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Can you filter by proximity, so the surveyor's proximity to the...
So the question is, can we filter proximity within the inbox?
Yeah, so if you're doing the feature service survey,
Mhm.
you would do that, and your surveyor is close to the assets.
So we can do that within the inbox. In the map view, you can refresh, and that will filter out to the spatial extent that you have, or you have the option to set that in the settings. It's not by default. The other mechanism that we see people use is using Explorer or possibly Collector as the map browsing environment, and then launching the Survey123 with that by basically creating a hyperlink that opens up Survey123, and then beginning that data. In the back.
Is there any way of setting user-driven default values?
So the
Name and organisation has always been the same.
right.
For your creator.
So the question is there a way to put in user-specific default values? There are a few options currently. There is, for example, a username question and an email question that will populate with the user's ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise username and email address registered. We are looking at providing further system setting, further access to information like that in a future release. Yes.
Public survey is currently available with ArcGIS Online or get account only.
So the question is, are public surveys only available with an ArcGIS Online account only?
Yeah. So, any plan for making it available for enterprise user or?
So a public survey, you can set a survey to be public when it's been published on ArcGIS Enterprise and Portal. And the web form, for example, you can configure to go and use that portal. That being said, there is a requirement that your portal is accessible over the internet. Right? Because we would, in order for it to be publicly available in that sense, you would need to be able to access the data that's being stored and submit the data into that portal. Oh, yes.
The image annotation that you were showing, is that available in the current version? Or?
So the image annotation is available in the current version. Yes, we're making actually no. The image annotation is coming in the next, right? The camera annotation?
No, you can annotate now.
No? Okay.
And it's just new images and the ability to rotate the images coming in the next release. But the ability to have an annotate question with a new image is in there now.
Okay, it definitely is in 2793, which is basically our pre-release version.
But it's an annotate type question.
Yeah, the question type, the question has an appearance of annotate.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if there aren't any other questions, if there are other questions, we'll still be here for a little bit. Please feel free to come up. Thank you for your time.